Good morning, people. And today, once again, I am extremely excited to give you the content that I feel like God has breathed on my spirit. Actually, last night I heard this specific title, so I'm pretty sure that if I woke up this morning and it was still on my heart, this is something that really needs to be talked about as well as addressed. And like I said, I am always excited to share something that God has breathed on my spirit. As you know, our mantra here on the dialogue is that we are healing souls one conversation at a time. So, as I speak to you through this platform, I hope that you take it, digest it, process it, evaluate what you heard, see if it is something that you can apply to your life to get a different outcome, as well as taking it to other people throughout your day. If you hear someone going through something similar that you have heard, and this information can help them, that you actually share with them, converse about it, and it can also be a healing agent for them as well. So, my name is Patricia. I am the host of this platform. So, this is really going to be an exciting subject this morning. So, let us get started. So last night I was meandering around the house and it was close to time for me to retire for the day and go to bed. And so the word that actually came to my heart, to my spirit, was accountability. And we are living in a time right now where accountability is something that can be very difficult to accept. It can be something that um, maybe easier for you if you can accept accountability by yourself. But a lot of times, when someone else is making you accountable, whether it be to apologize, whether it be to start a new eating regimen, whether it be to finish school, whether it be to evaluate your behavior and things like that, it can be extremely difficult. Because with accountability, it is that you are doing self evaluation. You are taking introspection of yourself and seeing something that you don't like, or something that is falling beneath the standard of what God has said for you. And that actually is what sin is. Sin is falling beneath the standard of excellence for which God has designed for our lives. Ironically enough, it says biblically that we were born and shaped in iniquity, in sin. So all of us have a nature of sin. And this is why it is important that you understand that when you fall short, not if, when you fall short, your Father is there to offer you the grace and extend mercy to you in order for you to come up to the standard that He has for your life. However, that does not happen without accountability. Our great friend Webster's dictionary states that accountability is the state of being held responsible for one's actions, decisions, and results. It can also be defined as the expectation to give an account on one's actions. Similar words consist of responsibility, liability, answerability, reporting, and ironically enough, it says obedience. And so prior to me coming on to this podcast this morning to detail this information for you, I'm going to read one more thing. It says accountability refers to the acceptance of responsibility for honest and ethical conduct towards others. Absolutely true. However, I also think that it is responsibility and accountability towards ourselves, how we treat ourselves, how we evaluate ourselves. So it says being honest, being on time, being open to feedback, proactively solving problems, setting clear goals, being responsible. Other signs of accountability include learning from successes and failures, being outcome driven, knowing your limits, and being open to change. completing tasks on time, being a team player, being being respectful of others, taking ownership of problems, focusing on goals, being proactive, being responsible for your actions, adhering to standards, being aware of consequences. So, I think this gives us enough, um, you know, information. It also says saying sorry, um, knowing your role, and accountability. Even though it is just one word, it can go into so many aspects of our life. And accountability is connected to maturity. You know, when we were kids, if we did something, a lot of times, we were about to get in trouble, we would look at our parents like, okay, I didn't do it, it wasn't my fault, or even blame someone else. But when you get older and you start to mature in this on this journey called life, it's a moment where you sit down and say, okay, that person is not to blame for what I did. You can even take it further. If a person gets fired, they can take accountability. Okay, they weren't always on time. They didn't always do their job and things like that, right? Accountability puts you in a place of, well, it is a conduit connected to maturity. Because maturity, when you grow up, it is not about your age. I've seen 20-year-olds that were mature. I've seen 40-year-olds that were immature. And what would you think about this if I told you that growth is related to your ability to accept accountability? Because remember, we said it, accountability and, well, actually maturity, it does not matter your age. Because you have to be able to evaluate yourself and your actions to grow. Now, everybody's going to grow up numerically. Everybody's going to take leaps and bounds every year for that next age. You're 16, you're going to go 17. You're 17, you're going to be 18 the following year, and so forth and so on. But that does not mean that mentally you are growing in your capacity to accept responsibility for your actions. And I think it's a dangerous person that blames everyone else. I think it's a dangerous person that cannot sit with themselves and see that they made a mistake, because that means that that person will never evolve. That means that stagnation is there. That means that inability to see correctly or appropriately for someone's actions as far as the harm it may cause to others as well as themselves. Accountability is for other people when it is coming from you, but it's ultimately for yourself. It's a component of humility. It is a component of actually faith as well, because when you're taking responsibility for something, you're ultimately trusting God to change those behaviors, help you change your mindset, actually deliver you from the things that you may be doing to cause harm to other people. So, I was watching something the other day. We all know that the election just passed. And I was watching an interview, and this specific person just kept blaming the other person. They were asking her questions about herself, and she just continued to blame the other person, even though that person did not have anything to do with it. And yes, I'm talking about Kamala Harris and the recent presidency that just took place a couple days ago. When I watched her as a woman, and she was being asked questions in regards to her administration and what she had done in the past 4 years that she was vice president, did she own up to what she said she was going to do? Repeatedly blamed Trump, repeatedly, and they did the same thing. For some reason, it hit differently as I watched her squirm and wiggle outside of the responsibility to accept accountability. That was really big for me, right? And so, and I have other, reasons and things like that, in regards to the presidency. I may have to do a different podcast for that because it was more spiritual than anything else that I saw. But nevertheless, so accountability is going to put you in a place of responsibility. People like to connect with people that are accountable. They like to connect with people that are responsible. They like to connect with people that can analyze their life and see that I'm falling short of where I should be at this phase in my life. And do not misunderstand me. My heart goes out to people that are continuously criticized and ostracized and ridiculed as far as just the person that they are. Because accountability can be difficult for that person. I remember when I was a kid, it was like nothing I could do was right. Nothing I said was right. I was the anomaly in the family, didn't fit in, didn't feel welcome, didn't even feel loved. But when it came to criticism and being treated unjustly, that was a lot of the family structure. And so as I got older, I think that I went the route of taking too much accountability, meaning if someone else was involved with me, I would always be the one like, oh, I'm sorry, take a lot of the fault and blame myself. But as I sit back and realize, one of the things that has been extremely freeing to me is that I don't just only have to take accountability for myself, I can hold other people accountable as well. Even if it makes them uncomfortable, even if it makes me uncomfortable, even if it ends the relationship. Because we know a lot of times that is why. You look at different relationships, not platonic, let's talk about romantic. I don't always want to pinpoint the men because I think that it's just over exercised a lot of times. So let's just use a woman. A woman goes out and she cheats and she doesn't tell this man for a long time, and she just goes back to regular like nothing happens. But then she has a baby. The baby is not the man's. He doesn't even know it. But eventually down the line, everything starts to unravel. And on top of that, he can see like, okay, something's awkward in this situation. Something doesn't make sense. I don't feel at ease about it. And then accountability happens and he discovers, okay, that baby is not mine. The accountability happened because he discovered it. But at the end of the day, what she really came forward and told if she had not been caught. And where I live at, I've actually had an opportunity to talk to a lot of men in this area, and it's some great men here, but they're very hurt and broken. And I've asked them questions like, hey, why are you not in a relationship? Why are you not dating someone? And they've said it. I had children put on me that were not my children, meaning that they took care of children, played child support and things like that for children, babies that were not theirs. So that level of accountability, as far as taking responsibility for the fact that that woman cheated, for the fact that that woman stepped outside of the relationship and had an intimate sexual connection with another person. I think that's really important for a person to say that they did what they did, right? Because as life goes on, we know eventually the truth comes out, and a lot of children do find out that their father is not their father. And that can be very hurtful for that child. It can be also very hurtful for that man. And this is very interesting because I don't even know why I'm going this direction. Nevertheless, accountability, even though it may break a person's heart and hurt them, eventually healing can and will come to the surface. This is what this is all about. I am an advocate for healing. And so this morning, before I even popped on the broadcast, I was thinking about in the Bible when Jesus was talking to people, and even a lot of times prior to him healing people or answering their requests, he asked them questions. Do you want to be made whole? you know he would challenge their mindset as far as what they thought. The one lady, he asked her like, hey, Dogs don't eat the bread of the Jews, or of the children of Israel. She was like, okay, but I'll eat the crumbs. But he asked them and he conversed with them to see a lot of times if they were open to growth, evolving, and change by taking accountability for where their current state was, even if it was not their fault a lot of times. Like you see the man that was laying on the mat, and God asked him, like, do you want to be made whole? Do you want to be healed? And their responses oftentimes determine if God did the miracle for them. Please listen to me and understand. Life as it is going, and we're on this journey, a lot of us make mistakes. None of us are perfect. We all do things that when we look back, we regret, like, man, I wish that I did not do that. How did I get myself here? Even sometimes if you don't know how you got yourself in a situation, I will explain it to you and help you understand that the beautiful part is that God knows. He saw how you got yourself there. He is not asking you to continue to condemn yourself or treat yourself harshly. He's asking you to accept accountability so he can extend mercy to you and grace and give you strategy to fix your problem. We do have an enemy that fights us daily. It says in the word of God that he roams to and fro, seeking the earth as to whom he may devour. So it is oftentimes very hard to keep our eyes on everything and not make mistakes in every area or some of the areas of our lives. And oftentimes he will use something that seems as though it's good, attaches to it, right? It oftentimes comes a lot from the inner issues that we have, that we connect to certain people or connect to certain jobs, right? But as you continue to go on and evolve and discover yourself, you start to see and figure out, this is something I'm going through because God is trying to help me to evolve. He's trying to help me change. And even if you're someone going through a hard situation right now, God can be using your circumstances to change other people around you. When you sit and start evaluating yourself and processing, it is about deliverance and being liberated. This is what God is all about. Maturing us, getting us to the place of wholeness through healing, through accountability. We see Jesus, he didn't make a mistake. He didn't sin. He walked this earth, but he was also always thrown sidebar conversations and ways to try and trap him and trick him. He was able to navigate because he was God in the flesh. So we know that we have flesh, and the enemy is always trying to trap us up to get us connected to the wrong person, marry the wrong person, start a business with the wrong person, have a baby with the wrong person. And then you get yourself in a situation and it's like, I do not even know how to get myself out of this. It's exhausting. But when we take accountability, that is when God is like, they've learned their lesson. And they don't have to keep wandering around the wilderness for another 40 years. Accountability helps you just lay in the palm of the Father's heart and hand and cry out to him and say, God, I messed up. I shouldn't have did that. I shouldn't have said that. And it may take a while. I know there are things that I'm still working on. Like, hey, I am really trying to work on my peace. Meaning coming to the point where I accept some of the decisions, all the decisions that I've made that cause myself pain, other people pain. I'm even talking to people about things they've done to me that have caused me pain, in hopes that they will evolve to the place of accountability for the purpose of transformation. But I do understand this. Accountability is a self work. You know, even if you do it with a group of people, like if you do something with a group of people and it's wrong, accountability, you still have to do it in yourself, like for yourself. You know how they say forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you. So accountability brings you to the point of maturity, but it's also so that you can be unlatched and unhinged and unhindered in your life. Because if you can't take accountability and be responsible, you are living a limited life. I look at when I take accountability, and I know I keep saying that word over and over and over. I look at it when I take responsibility for my life, that it's like, okay, hey, I messed up there and I messed up bad. And I'll even cry out to God, like, Lord, I don't know what I was thinking when I did this. Because ultimately, it is I that did it. Even if the enemy said it before me, he tempted me. It was something in me that allowed me to connect with that temptation and roll with it and execute it, that ended up with a bad result. And unfortunately, when you don't have guidance in your life, or you don't have parents, or you don't have a mentor, and you don't have a spiritual covering, a lot of times, the Holy Spirit, God is our covering, but it wouldn't be so bad to have people that have your best interests at heart. Like, okay, let me make sure she's okay and that she's not falling out of alignment with God. Because when you fall out of alignment and you fall off the path, it is so much easier to be devoured and lose your way. So accountability keeps us on a path. And more now than ever, I am trying to take accountability for so many things that I've done wrong. I mean, it had hit me hard because, like I said, I think I could be a little bit too hard on myself, but I would rather be hard on myself and take accountability than not hard at all, not examining myself and just rolling through life like I'm just perfect. I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't caused anybody else pain, and just be victimized in my own mindset, like everybody does me wrong, nobody does me right, nobody loves me. Even if that may be true, that still does not give me a reason or a right not to take accountability for myself and my actions. And I'm the type of person, I'll give you an example. I remember it's been a couple times I worked at different jobs, and the people treated me very harshly and very mean and actually very rude. And it would be two to three to four or five of them that would try to gang up and bully me. And so, even though they didn't take accountability for their actions, I would do everything I could to make sure that I would not connect to rage or anger or bitterness and start hating those people. So, when it came time for me to go to lunch, I'm already going to lunch. Hey, do you guys want anything? Hey, are you hungry today? I could pick it up. They always paid, right? But it kept my heart in a good place. That was me taking accountability for my own thoughts, behaviors, and actions. Like, okay, I'm not going to let their hatred stick in me to the point where I start hating them back. And so I always try to combat anger, anger with a good gesture, because I'm taking accountability for myself. You guys are doing this to me or treating me like this. I am not going to hit you back or reciprocate what you're giving to me. I'm going to be responsible. I'm going to be mature and do the opposite thing. So in those situations, I evolved a lot. But I'm going to be honest with you, there are some circumstances and situations that test me beyond my capacity. So then I have to go to God like, hey, God, I'm just going to be honest and real with you. This person has really screwed over me, right? And I really don't like it. And this is what I want to do. This is what I want to say. This is how I want to behave. But I'm asking for your grace to not allow me to do that, because I can't do it in myself. Does it work every time? Absolutely not, because there are some things that genuinely get under my skin. There are some things that genuinely hurt me. There are some things that are really, really, really strong triggers for me. One of them being children. I can take a lot of hits, but when it comes to children, oh my God, vexes my whole soul. And now that I've evolved into a couple new roles in my life, there are other things that I see like, oh my God, I need so much of God's grace and mercy because this person can get it today. Like, and I mean in regards to words and verbiage. But even though Jesus was mad a lot of, when he, not a lot of times, but he was mad when he saw what they did in the temple, right? The temple was what the temple is so funny because we are the temple of God. I mean, we are the temple. Our bodies are a temple. So when he saw what they were doing inside, he flipped the table. And we have to accept accountability so God can evolve us past certain things so we don't continue to flip the table. I say this to say, we are not perfect. We are striving towards perfection. And it's going to continue into the day of Christ Jesus. It says, he that began a good work in you shall complete it and continue it into the day of Christ Jesus, which means that we are always going to be processed. God is always going to be working something out of us. He's always going to work on our souls, right? And so if your soul is in a place and you just don't understand how you got into a solution, it is through accountability. Take it to God. Lord, I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what I was thinking. Because I can be honest, a lot of times when I'm talking to people, accountability is hard, especially if it is fueled through a person that is angry with you or disappointed. So we can handle people very, very harshly sometimes. I'm the first person to say that, especially if it's something that hurts me. A lot of times I won't even talk about it. Gotta just say, okay, sever the connection and disassociate or disconnect. However, now in the phase that I'm in, that is not so easy because it's as if I'm taking accountability for how someone treats me as well and trying to help them become accountable. But you can't change people. I mean, it's only so much that you can do, and sometimes it's not anything that you can do at all. But God is faithful. This is why I think that I was reading this thing the other day, and it was talking about marriage. And it was saying, make sure that and I think this is for business. I think this is for a lot of aspects in life, but it was stating, make sure that you partner with someone that challenges you. And to me, being challenged is challenged to grow. And so if you're challenged to grow and evolve and change and transform, you will end up taking a lot of accountability, responsibility. And it's nice when you can do it for yourself and no one else have to do it for you, but oftentimes you need someone else that loves you enough to tell you you're better than this. I see so much for you, so much potential, so much life. You just have a beautiful soul. And I see so much more than for you by helping you accept accountability and sitting back and watching you not. You know, that's just like a person that drinks and a drunkard or drinks a lot, right? People sit around and watch that person drink themselves silly, and then they get into a car, right? And then they do something accidentally. Accountability is an act of love because when people love someone, they at least try to warn them, like, hey, what's going on? Why are you drinking so much? And then it's like, okay, hey, don't drink and drive. Okay, hey, don't do this. Let me help you. Let me drive you home, right? So if you have people around you that don't want to hold you accountable in a loving way, right, through loving gestures, does that person really love you? I remember I was talking to a friend and I said something to her and it made her so mad, right? And when we were talking about it, she was like, criticizing me as far as how I was dealing with her, like I was playing with her. And then she told me, she said, well, hey, when you're in situations that you shouldn't be in, I support you, and just saying all this stuff. And I stopped her. I said, hey, but are you a real friend? Because don't support me when I'm doing wrong. Tell me about it in love, but don't watch me go down a path of destruction. Don't support me in doing something that can cause me years of bondage, years of pain. Don't support me in that. And it made more sense as to why she got upset as what she did when we talked about some of the things that she was into. And that showed me a lot. Like, I want people around me, like, hey, if I say that, I want to try a new eating regimen, hold me accountable. Like, hey, you said you weren't going to eat that. You said you weren't going to do that. And that person comes alongside you and partner with you in what you said you were going to do or not going to do. So what are they doing? Inevitably, they're helping me grow. They're challenging me. They're putting me in a position for success. And this is something that I've learned. Accountability, when you partner with people, a lot of people want to see people fail, so they're not holding them accountable to what they said. And failure leads to a lot of inner frustration. It can even lead to mental issues. I don't want people around me that are letting me just meander through life without telling me, like, hey, you've been doing that for a while. And I'm your friend and I love you. But what's going on? I may not understand where you are, but I'm concerned about you. I don't, I'm not perfect either, but I can see this is not going to end up good. That person loves me. That person loves me. Not trying to please me as a person, like telling me, like, hey, you really need to pull that together. Because we also have to be able to do this for our children. Like, I am so baffled at people when they're so hard on their children, but they're not hard on adults. Or not even, let's say, hard, but they don't do this with other adults. And maybe it's why we have so many immature adults. And I'm a woman, when I look around and see certain things, not out of eyes, I don't want to be, critical or judgmental or anything like that, because sometimes it's easy to go that route. God knows why people are doing what they're doing and why their behaviors are as such. However, you even see it in the garden. Like, God was talking to Adam and he started to say, it's the woman you gave me. So he wasn't even able to accept accountability for his own sin, but he also blamed God. Like, this is because of this woman you gave me. I'm going through this because of her. Nah, you ate that fruit or whatever it was, because it didn't say it was fruit, but you sinned. You fell short. So blaming another person is not going to help you evolve. So at the end of the day, accountability is refreshing. It hurts. When I've looked back and saw some of the things that I've done, I'm like, oh gosh, where was I at? And then I'll try to look around the circumstances and I could kind of pinpoint, okay, when I made that mistake, I didn't feel loved. When I did that, I didn't have support. When I did that, it was because I was afraid. And then you can have compassion on yourself. Right? And then God, well, he will have compassion, like he always does, right? Even if he allows you to bear the consequences for the actions that you were irresponsible about. But once you accept accountability, he loves on you. Like, I know where you were at when you did that. I know you hadn't healed from your childhood. I know you didn't understand what real womanhood or real manhood was. I know you had a lot of people around you influencing your decisions and telling you to do this and do that. I know that you thought that was how people were supposed to operate. He'll have so much compassion on you. He'll put people around you to help you. God doesn't want us to keep making the same mistakes over and over and over, because he wants us to evolve and grow, and then we can help other people evolve and grow. I was so baffled one time where I was going through like a self evaluation, but I was having a conversation with someone on the phone as it was taking place. And when I started to hold myself accountable for certain things, like I can't blame them for that. This is on me. It actually made that person mad. And I had to explain I was not talking to you. Well, I'm talking to you, but I'm talking about myself. And it infuriated that person to the point where we're no longer friends anymore because I was evaluating myself and how I had got to where I was and things that I wanted to do differently to make sure that I didn't make that mistake again. And honestly, on their behalf, it was a lot of justification. Like, well, how do you know this person and tell this person the wrong thing? Okay, but still, I ingested it. If someone did tell me the wrong thing, I took that advice and applied it to my life. Nobody made me do it. I did it on my own, right? But I still have to take accountability so that my eyes, my discernment can be sharpened so I don't do it again. And so now, in this time in my life, the people that I want around me and to surround me are not people that justify everything they do. Like, no, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to take that hit on the chin because I messed up. We're human. We're humans with flesh. We're humans with flesh that are tempted every day to do something that doesn't bring God glory. He knows, he understands. Do you know that you don't have to be perfect? God will perfect the areas that he see needs to be corrected. My heart really goes out to people that have never been able to experience compassion from a person for a mistake. Because I think a lot of times the arguing and the bickering that people do is because, hey, you don't understand what your inability to accept accountability did to my life. But then God says, forgive people, right? We do have to forgive people. It is a process because the pain is still there. It's a process. But at the end of the day, God is sovereign and he's filled with love. He loves us. He loves his children. And if you have accepted him as your Lord and Savior, he loves you. You're his son. You're his daughter. You're his beloved. So accountability can be uncomfortable. You know, I'm the type of person, I feel like somewhere or another people passively and aggressively not even try to hold me accountable, but just try to diminish me in a sense because they think that I'm so perfect. No, they really don't understand. This is why me and God are so close because he knows, like, God, I'm coming to you. I didn't know this. But a lot of people may not know that, but God knows that. And so I have a lot of people that deal with me very harshly, but I don't have a problem talking to people and um humbling myself. Like, hey, I was wrong for that. That's something I'm still working on. I still need work in that area. The problem is a lot of times people aren't as gracious. You know, I don't know what people see when they see me, but people can be very hard and harsh with me. But as I take it to God and take it to my Father, I'll talk to him like, God, I never experienced that, and then he'll show me like, this is why you did that. So let's go back here and heal that so that you don't do this again. When you take accountability, it's like the ultimate hug from a father. Like, there's been things that I've done, and when I took it to God and cried out, and then, I would open my Bible, he would comfort me. So when you're not taking accountability, you're not giving God an opportunity to be your father. Because fathers, they sit down and they talk to you and they nurture you and they get you past that point. You know, they get you past that point of, man, I messed up and I can't fix it. Your father will come in like, hey, son, hey, daughter, you know, I see you spiraling down this hole because you just continue to harbor on a mistake that you made. Let's get you past that. Let's pick you up. Let's dust you off. It kind of reminds me like the prodigal son when he went out and spoiled all his funds and riches and he walked away from his dad. When he got to the point of accountability, when he got so low, he was like, why am I out here living like this and doing this and being like this? I can go back to my father's house. And when he went back, his dad was like, bring the best things for him. I think it was because he returned home, but I think it was also because he matured. He needed to be in that slop, that pig pen, being worked, being, you know, all the things that he went through. I'm pretty sure it was a lot more than, you know, is detailed, but everybody has their pig pen moment where we've made a mistake. We're so low, we're in slop and some mess and eating below who we are. And then we go back to the Father, you know, and he forgives. He dresses you up again. He takes the residue off from the journey, allows you to forgive yourself and move forward. Like, wow, I won't do that again. I've learned my lesson. And sometimes the life lessons are hard and they take time. But some of us can be very hard-headed and stubborn. So God does have to take us the long way. Like, hey, you shouldn't have did that. So it's a component of maturity, but it's also a component of understanding that your soul needs to be nurtured. Our souls, when they are in a broken place, they can make decisions that seem like they were very good at the time, and they weren't. And then God comes in and he will begin to love on your soul like, son, daughter, I still love you, but I want you to mature. I want you to grow up. I want you to stop doing things that stunt your mindset, that stunt you as your potential. You know, you look at athletes and people like that and that have achieved a level of greatness, very talented, but maybe somewhere around the back door, their personal life, as far as their character, is not intact. And then eventually, you know, things start to get exposed, right? We want to expose our limited areas and our weaknesses to God so that he can strengthen it and be our strength. And then we could talk to other people about it. You know, not blame other people, right? I don't want this to come off as though it is condemning. I want you to feel refreshed, knowing that even if you can't go to people, you can always go to God. You know, someone once said, God is Patricia's best friend, and he is, because not only do I tell him all my secrets and sins and things that I have issues with, he already knows. He's just waiting for me to connect with him with the issue and problem so that he can sever it from my soul and I can grow. And he'll get glory because I'll tell her like, okay, I couldn't have got to this place without God. So give God an opportunity to be God over your life. If you made a mistake and you find yourself in a situation that seems impossible to get out of, ask the Lord, why am I in this? What are you trying to show me? I think yesterday or a couple days ago, I did a podcast about suffering, the purpose of suffering. We know that the prodigal son was suffering. His suffering pushed him back into his royal state where he always should have been, which means he got restored. But the restoration came when he transformed his mind through accountability for his actions, which it was accountability for his thoughts, which affected his actions and his behavior, more than likely his words, more than likely the connections that he had with people, the places. It goes so deep. This is why we have to bring our thoughts to God and let Him examine our thoughts, because it'll lead you down a path that you never thought you would ever enter into. But God is still with you on that path. If you do not hear anything else that I said today, and I hope that you did, know that your Father loves you. He has not forsaken or abandoned you. He is waiting for you to come to yourself, your real self, so He could treat you as the king and queen that you are and help you evolve and be responsible, be mature as an adult. Is so liberating, and it's beautiful. Even if it comes through chaos, mess, or tragedy, the ending result is that it's beautiful. And that's Romans 8:28. For we know that all things work together for the good of those that are the called according to the Lord's purpose. Excuse me, and love Him. So, at the end of the day, accountability is our goal. Transformation is our lifestyle. Evolving is our best friend. Connect with these words so that you can live an abundant life of joy and peace, right? So, as I stated earlier, I was so excited about this podcast. I didn't know exactly how it was going to go, but I'm actually excited about it. And I'm going to dive deeper into my own accountability and being responsible and being mature and thinking about the decisions that I make, the connections that I have, and things and adventures, and anything that I want to do, right? You won't get it right every single time, but God will be with you, because sometimes He'll even lead you into things or allow you to go into things to bring you to a place of accountability. But God knows what He's doing. So, thank you for tuning in today to today's episode of The Dialogue. I am your host, Patricia. As you know, our mantra is that we're healing souls one conversation at a time. I definitely want to thank everybody that has been viewing the podcast and listening and sharing. If you think this can help someone, share it. And it is my hope that you have a great day. We'll be back with more content at a later time. Bye, guys.